we are live. Welcome to my video. This is going to be a completely spoiler-free review of the 2016 game, Superhot. Hi viewer, you have to check out Superhot. It's the most innovative shooter I've played in years, and with the meme out of the way, yeah, I think that is slightly overstating perhaps, but honestly, there's a lot to love here. I frickin' love this game. Yeah, I know, late to the party and all. Right, and the, yes, the game, I figure it's probably rated mature? 12. So will this video be, yeah. So, the gameplay is one of the main appeals here. So I will start with that, and yeah, I mean, basically, it's a first-person shooter with a major tactical element, and yeah, there are certain traits to it that are why it's so unique. Superhot may be the title of the game, in fact, it is, but the name of the game is minimalism. On this channel, I criticize streamlining in video games a lot, and I do think that I'm largely right about that. This is one of those games where it actually really works. I am so glad that this is as streamlined as it is. This is one of those games you can sit down and almost immediately pick up, you know, and a lot of the time that is true of, you know, mainstream first-person shooters. But this is one where, like, I think I'll just describe. So basically, if it's white, it's geography. You know, if you're seeing something white that looks solid, that's a wall. You're not going to be able to pass through it. Go around. If it's black, it's a weapon. You can pick it up. If it's melee, you can hit with it, you can throw it. If it's, you know, a ranged weapon, you can, you know, shoot it or throw it. And if it's red, it's an enemy, and you gotta take them out any way you can. If you have nothing in your hands, you can punch, but it is not as powerful as any of the other attacks. You know, you don't want to rely too heavily on unarmed melee. A lot of enemies, when attacked, you know, right, and one hit kills if it's a bullet. There's some melee weapons that are powerful enough to kill with one hit, including the wonderful katana. And yeah, throwing the katana is as cool as it sounds. Right, and pretty much anything you throw will break on impact with, you know, geography or an enemy. Any weapon that's lying around can be picked up by you or an enemy. Enemies tend to favor picking up guns. You know, sometimes you don't want to pick up a gun for whatever reason. Anyway, but yeah, you know, hitting an enemy is likely to have the enemy let go of the weapon, and it'll fly through the air. You can run and jump, catch the weapon in midair, and then shoot the enemy with the weapon that you just got them to drop. There is no reloading in the game. As soon as the clip is empty, that is it. And I always love when a video game actually has me, like, try to think out something that there are a lot of other games that would just be like, no, just look at the HUD, or look it up, or something, you know. And yeah, you know, Thief will sometimes have me try to work out the map in my mind. Here I'm counting bullets, you know, making sure, yeah, because the game doesn't tell you that the gun is empty before you pull the trigger thinking that it's not, and then it says, oh, by the way, it's empty. You would be in a better position if you count and then throw the weapon instead of expecting, because you can't just, you know, there's a brief cooldown for the guns, you know, in part because, you know, it's, things move in slow motion when you don't move. You know, some have said, you know, oh, the game only moves when you do. That's not 100% accurate. Bullets will move, they just move much slower when you aren't moving. But yeah, so let's see, I think that might just about cover like the basics of the gameplay. But yeah, you know, there's a bunch of the time where you'll want to take certain courses of action, but there's also times where, yeah, I mean, you can kind of just make up, you know, it's fairly linear, you don't have a huge amount of freedom, but the combat encounters themselves, which is the meat and potatoes of the gameplay, most of the gameplay, is that, you know, yeah, like, the exact direction you move, you have some freedom over, and yeah, you know, do you want to charge and punch an enemy until they drop the gun, which, you know, might happen with the very first punch thrown, or do you want to, like, try to hide? Maybe, like, there's a non-zero number of levels in this, where if you stay in one spot, the enemy will have to come to you, and there's only one entrance, and there's multiple melee weapons in there, so yeah, you know, that's an option, but you could also go in there, grab one thing, run out, and try to circle around, you know. Let's see, the graphics are very heavily stylized. I already mentioned about how everything is one of the three colors. Other than that, the enemies don't look human other than the shape. They're basically like these, I want to say the word is geometric, they're made up of geometric shapes. And when an enemy dies, they don't just like fall over, they shatter. They're made up of like crystals, you know, and just, yeah, you can cut with the katana, cut enemies apart, and the, you know, when you shoot someone, the part of the body, like, yeah, explodes into a million tiny little pieces of glass. Just, yeah. I have seen some people say the game is too short, and I understand where they're coming from. I think it's the right length for the story, and I'm glad that they didn't feel the need to, like, draw it out. There are a number of things you can do after. There are challenge modes and what's referred to as the endless mode. And some have said, oh, but, you know, it's just like different rule set. It's the, you know, and certainly I haven't played all of those, but certainly at least some of them, it's the same levels as the story mode. And some of the rule sets don't change that much. I understand why some have felt that it's not enough. And so, you know, I always say buy on sale, you know. I totally get why people who bought this at full price felt that it did not, you know, warrant that the price. One thing I did see someone pose, and I do really agree with, is it would be great if this allowed players to, you know, adjust the rules and make new modes and then share them with other players. You know, I would say it's called the Steam Workshop, for example. That I definitely do think would increase how long of a life it has. But yeah, personally, I quite enjoy the challenge modes. I think I'll just briefly describe endless mode first, because that one is very, very straightforward. Yeah, it is what it sounds like. You know, you're running around right, and also the levels of the game, you know, they're often fairly small and just, yeah, closed, and in endless mode you can run around, you know, because yeah, enemies will keep spawning, and eventually you'll, you know, right. I think I forgot to mention, you die with one bullet as well, and with one hit of the especially powerful weapons, you know. But yeah, no HUD, you know, no health, no ammo counter. You cannot switch weapons. You can only be, you're either carrying something or you're empty-handed, and the thing you're carrying you can throw or use at entirely when you want to. Yeah. You know, it's you can start playing any level. This is a game where you can take a break for a while and completely forget everything about the game and almost immediately be able to pick it back up. A lot of games that's not true of, and I'm not saying those games are bad or something. And yeah, you know, so some of the individual things we've seen before. Famously, Max Payne, yeah, all three of the Max Payne games had come out by the time of this. Those have, you know, bullet time. You know, the idea of, you know, if you might not be able to reload your weapon. That's sometimes true in Kane and Lynch. I can never remember. I'm just gonna go with Kane and Lynch too. I think Dog Days is the second one, but yeah. But yeah, having all of them in one is not something I've seen in any of the others. And certainly, you know, the way that you can, I don't think I've played any other shooter personally, maybe they exist, where like 1 second you are using an assault rifle to just, you know, gun down multiple enemies, and you feel like, you know, it's super powered basically, like, and then suddenly it runs out of bullets, and now you have nothing. And there might be enemies around, you might face several enemies that now have an assault rifle or a shotgun or that sort of thing, you know. Let's see, but yeah, the endless mode, you know, eventually you'll die, or you'll just be like, I don't really feel like it anymore. And yeah, yeah, you can play it for 10 seconds or however long you're able to stay alive, and it just keeps going. That's something, I'm not saying every game needs it, but I love it here. I love it in Max Payne 2. You know, it's just, it's great when you can have that sort of thing. Right, and I think regardless of how exactly you play it, you know, story, endless, challenges, it, like, notes how long you took to get through a level in endless mode, I guess, before you died. And right, as you play, you know, as soon as you complete the game, it'll unlock endless, the story mode. It'll unlock endless and the first of the challenge modes. Then you have to, let's see, I think it's 5 challenge mode levels unlocks the next challenge mode, on and on. In endless, I forget the number, but you have to take out a certain number of enemies to, you know, there's for that specific level in order to unlock the next level of that chunk, but there's also a total counter that, yeah, that needs no further elaboration. And yeah, some of the challenge modes are really cool. There's one where bullets move faster, and you only have 1 bullet per gun. The enemies do not. Yeah, that changes things. Oh, right, it is possible to, I think for you as well, I don't think I ever purposefully tried to, but enemies can shoot a gun out of the air. So if you happen to, you know, if perhaps you used 1 bullet already, the gun is now empty, you're having to throw it. If the enemy shoots the gun in midair, yeah, you know, it's destroyed. And I think, yeah, the same is true of like melee and such. Right, one thing that is, I think my one criticism, and I've seen others note this, so it did not just happen to me, it's not like, yeah, the throwing physics are not always completely dependable, and that does really cause frustration sometimes. It wasn't. I still love the game, but if that's something that's really going to get to you, this might, as much as it sucks to say, you may want to consider not playing this game. What was the other thing? Right, I really appreciate the fact that, you know, even more so than in, for example, the Max Payne games, you really do have to shoot for where the enemy is going to be. It's like if Space Invaders was a first-person shooter. You know, if you shoot where the enemy is right now, the enemy might move. I also really appreciate that there's an actual, you know, I already mentioned one-hit kills, so headshots. I'm going to go ahead and get the exact... So let's see, we have the, where is it? It is here. There is an actual... Yeah, here we go. It's called Pointless But Cool. You have to score 100 headshots. That's a Steve. Have I been thinking too much about Married with Children recently? Anyway, Steam achievement. Because, yeah, that's exactly right. That's how you... Yeah. Let's see. Oh, right. There's also a speed... There's multiple speedrun modes. There's a speedrun mode that's specifically for, like... You know, there's a regular, straightforward one, and then there's one that counts how much time in real time. So if you take a lot of time, you know, not moving, planning your next move, you know, and this is of course the kind of thing you'll want to try to minimize in general in a speedrun, but yeah, yeah, it's gonna count that as the, so yeah. I think that pretty much covers, yeah. So the story, I've seen some people say that they felt like it was pretentious, and I cannot really argue with that. I think I am just pretentious enough that it felt very much up my alley. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some people say the story of this game is pretentious. I try to look at it like this. But one thing, some people have taken issue with the fact that you don't have a lot of freedom over the story. And this is something that always bothers me when people criticize. Not every story is supposed to be, you know, not every video game story. I appreciate that some are. I think we've gotten kind of spoiled. There's been a bunch where you get to choose, you know, you get to take action that greatly affects the ending and such. I don't think every game needs that, and I really think it would have been a bad idea for this one too. But yeah, it is one of those endings. It has this kind of Grecian tragedy vibe to it for some of it. After a while, you can kind of guess where it's going, and you're kind of like, oh, please don't, no, don't, you know, and you're basically powerless to stop it, and I think that's... It's right for this story and for others like it. That's what I'll say. I found the story deeply compelling, and I love the fact that at the start... It's not a spoiler to say this, but yeah, at the very start, it seems like, oh, I guess there's just no story. Yeah, the story emerges as you play slightly further. But the wonderful thing is, your character... Like, there's these little segments where you chat with a friend. By the way, the menu is set up like the old kind of, you know, from way back in the day. You know, I'm not sure there's any that it pretty much anyone uses a computer where it looks the way that it does here today. But yeah, yes. So there's these chat segments where you get. In the game Superhot, you get the game Superhot from a friend of yours over this kind of, you know, he downloaded a crack and now he's sending it to you. And yeah, after several levels, you meet back, you chat again, and your character types out, "There's no plot." And again, I'm sorry, I'm just pretentious enough that I kind of love the meta of it. because it's just far enough into the game that you, the player, yourself are thinking, is there never going to be a plot in this thing? Because the thing is, either you're so used to, 2016, I mean, it's not super common anymore, like, way back in the day, some of the earliest games had, I suppose not no, but minimal plot. There's a bunch of games from, like, the 80s and 90s that have very little plot. By 2016, it's kind of unusual for there to be no plot, and even for, well, I suppose, no, there are some games where the plot doesn't reveal itself immediately, but a lot of them do, And, yeah, to actually have the character in-game that you're playing as point that out. And that's not the only amazing fourth wall break in this. I'm really, really glad that I played all the way through. Like, if you play all the way through the story and you're like, I don't really need more of the gameplay, I mean, I would recommend at least briefly trying challenge mode, the first challenge mode. You'll have to unlock the others, and endless. But yeah, if it doesn't really grab you, those are for people who really dig the gameplay, and I do. But the story especially, like, if you're at all interested in seeing the culmination of the story, I will say near the end there were parts where I was like, wow, they're kind of pushing how it got annoying to me near the end, but I'm really glad I pushed through, because the ending was just chef's kiss. Carmi would approve. And I think that might more or less... right, some people take issue with the sound design, and I do appreciate, there are some very annoying sounds that you hear a bunch. Yeah, I think that might just about... At the very start of the game, I had questions, and by the end, I felt that enough of them were sufficiently answered to my satisfaction. I'm not going to give away whether everything is wrapped up neat and tidy, but yeah, by the end, I felt like it was enough, and I cannot believe I actually just made that reference. Wow. Anyway, yeah, maybe this was a few too many videos to do in just one day. Yeah. I don't know. I started the video with cringe, might as well end it with it as well. 8 out of 10.